morning. It's the 3rd of March today, and as you can tell, seed sowing has really got underway. It's still very early, but I just tend to do them seeds in small batches. So yeah, quite a lot has changed over the last month. Certainly seeing a little bit more colour and yes, a lot more productivity. So can't wait to show you. So we're going to start at the top of the garden as usual. Okay, so my little narcissi by the apple tree have just come into flower this week. Temperatures are varying. One day it's really quite warm, next day it's really quite cold, so they don't quite know what to do. Snowdrops are past their best now, and still not a lot to see just here. The crocus again are past their best, although the purple ones still seem to want to open. The yellow ones I think have just gone first. They're just gradually starting to naturalise a little bit, which is really nice. We've managed to cut back a lot of the perennials in the last couple of weeks, and one of these is the apple mint. And as you can see, lots of new growth happening. I gave it a bit of division last year, so I'm not going to do any more to it this year. But I did find that staking it and putting some support netting made a big difference last year. We desperately need some water. I don't think we've had any rain for 3 weeks or so, and even then it wasn't really a massive amount. The honesty, yeah, I think it just needs some more water. Not as prolific as it normally is, but I think it's going to be enough for me this year. The first lot of narcissi I planted, planted the bulbs, have come through, or they're starting to come through anyway. And then there's 3 other sorts here which are phased to come at different times. Okay, again, just bulbs starting to come up here. I think those are muscari. Oh yeah, look, little muscari popping up. I've got bluebells in here, a bit of sweet William, some very old tulips, all sorts going on. Troitsia has had a bit of a cutback, and we're trying to get some edging done. Right, oh, look at my lovely narcissi here. These are some of my favourites. They originally bought them as bulbs on one of our family holidays on the Isles of Scilly. Love them. Lots of budding up happening with the shrubs, and perennials are showing signs of life too. This whole bed still needs a bit of a clear out. Okay, let's have a look and see what's been happening this month. Annual cornflower. These were sown in the autumn, or August I think. Got a bud coming here by the looks of it. Oops, so I'm probably going to pinch that out. These are looking really nice and healthy. I've just put 2 lines in instead of, usually I completely overdo it and then regret it. So they're looking great. And the gypsophila, well, I think they're still alive, but I planted those out in desperation because they were getting botrytis in the greenhouse. We'll see what happens to them. The clary, that's going to be okay. I think I've got the pink and the blue in there. And I planted out my snapdragons. These did pretty well over winter in the greenhouse, so I've pinched most of those out. Several different varieties in there just to give me a head start, I hope. It's the other bed of cornflower. Ranunculus. Need some water. Again, I planted those out in desperation. So we'll have to see what happens with them. They're looking a bit weedy. Corn cockle. So these are really looking good. Interestingly, so these nice bushy ones have been out all winter, and these taller ones I overwintered in the greenhouse, and they've kind of gone a bit leggy. So I'm going to pinch them out, but it's interesting just to see the contrast. Lovely bushy compact version at the minute, and then just like one leggy stem here. I think I definitely prefer the ones that have been out all winter. And then I've now got 2 beds of nigella. One was supposed to be Phacelia, but it got nabbed by the frost, so it didn't survive. And got a tiny bit of larkspur, so my survivors over the winter. So half a bed there at the moment. I think that's frosted skies. I haven't done any major planting on these beds, just the dahlias, which has been there all winter, and I can see it's really starting to, it's starting to look quite happy now. It's got nice fresh green growth. So thankfully I've got some dahlias because the Ami did not like being outside over the winter. Nothing else planted on this side. Let's have a look on the other side of the sweet pea arch. On the right hand side, I haven't planted anything else out just yet. Apart from I had some more dahlias which was being overwintered, but because the Ami got zapped, I'm going to put in the rest of the dahlias. So hopefully, and I do have a couple of Ami which I'm going to pop in here as well. Look down how are the alliums doing. So they're really starting to shoot up now. That is bulgaricum. I've got all sorts of different sorts in here. It's looking like the white ones over there are now coming up. Yeah, I've got all sorts in here. All sorts of alliums, got a few extras to top up what is already in here. And on the other side, so the red campion, pink campion, whatever you want to call it, that's bulking up nicely. Right, so I've got some tulips. This is my tulip bed last year. I thought I'd pulled them all out, clearly not. Well, interesting to see what the flowers are like. I planted out my cynoglossum, which looks, I think that needs some feeding. Does not look healthy compared to last year's. I've got some more sown, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So the raspberry and a currant bed. Nothing in here apart from self-sown nigella. There should be some rhubarb, and actually, there we go. Oh yeah, it's just a couple of bits just starting to pop up. I do love my rhubarb. Should be, oh yeah, here we go, there's another bit here. Right, the perennials, as promised last time, they've all been completely cut back now, and we've chopped it all up. It's all on the compost, and ready to do some division. So I'll be dividing some of these this weekend with my seed to vase, seed to bloom groups. Yeah, it's great to be able to multiply the plants we've got, get free extras, pop them in other places around the garden or give them away. So some are really starting to come to life. We've got the echinops, the perennial phlox, Shasta daisy. Not too much sign of life with the lysomachia just yet, but that's always a little bit later. Not too much sign of life with the echinacea, astrantia over there. I'm just letting all my thlaspi self-seed as much as possible, and I'll be moving that around. Hopefully it'll seed. Achillea, Verbena bonariensis. What else have I got? Catenanch. There's only one patch of catenanches looking okay. Veronica. Not Veronica, yes, Veronica, and sedum. Okay, let's have a look in the greenhouses. Okay, so in the little greenhouse, I mentioned last time about the pelargonium, which basically looks dead, but there was a couple of signs of life from a couple of the plants last month, and now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, at least 7 of them are showing signs of life, and if we're a bit more patient, you never know, there might be some more, but that's fantastic, so I would easily have just pulled them all out. So that's a bit of a life lesson there. Right, echinacea showing signs of life. They were bought in the autumn. Not sure about the cuttings. Not sure about the hydrangea either. But yeah, you know what appears to be dead, when you look closer, I can see these little green shoots are starting to appear. So yeah, perennials are all starting to wake up. My overwintered sweet peas, the remainder, I've potted them on just in the last couple of days. These on the whole are now looking okay. I've maybe only got half a dozen, but that'll be fine just to get me going. I've got plenty more January sown ones. These are all perennials, which I divided in the autumn, and I'll be able to move those around the garden. Nothing terribly exceptional. Veronica, Alchemilla mollis, sedum, Achillea. Those are the main ones. Let's have a look in the big greenhouse. Okay, seed central here. Honestly, you can't win, can you? So this is Cynoglossum, which I had saved the seed of. The first batch, I didn't think the germination was great, so I completely overdid it. And yeah, I think we've got plenty to share around in my seed to bloom group. Anyway, so we've got all sorts going on here: flax, clary, scabious, gypsophila, ami, phacelia, nigella, Oh, I was going to show you these. So I rescued these from the garden when I realised that they were not going to survive. Well, I doubt it. The first lot didn't survive the frost outside. So I just dug up a few, potted them up, and look, the roots coming out at the bottom. So we are due some frost this week. I'm just going to leave them a little bit longer and then I'm going to plant them out. I've already got a couple in the greenhouse, which I'll show you in a minute, of the same batch. Okay, so this is, I don't know if you can hardly see those Antirrhinum snapdragons. They are the tiniest seed and the tiniest seedlings. So just ignoring those for the minute. Melope, that was saved seed, again plenty to share with my seed to bloom groups, or layer, which was saved seed. I've been much more successful with saved seed. This is from a friend. I've had no luck with all layer, and yeah, interestingly, fantastic results from the saved seed. These aren't quite ready to transplant, so I've just popped those up here for the minute. My sweet peas, I was a little bit late getting them in their pots, so they're looking a little bit leggy, but they'll be fine. All sorts of things that I have transplanted. Hopefully they're not too wet. Oh, the cobia, that took ages to germinate, about 12, 13 days. But anyway, I've got 5 out of about 8 seeds, maybe 10 seeds. And then, I've forgotten what this is. Melope, that's Melope alba, and then we've got scabiosa here. Right, here, I've just put in 2 Ami here. I think I put in 4 or even 5 last year in this tiny 1 metre patch, and it was ridiculous. It was like they were like triffids. So 2 is going to be plenty, and the other ones I'm going to put outside. The other things I've popped in just for a head start are these 4 cornflower. Again, plenty of space, just to get a bit of a head start. I haven't really got much else planted. Let's have a look at the dahlia patch. Obviously nothing going on here, still very well and truly covered up. The Sweet William, okay, so it weren't looking that great, but we're getting some new growth coming through now, so I just hope that doesn't get zapped by the frost too much. Everything else is looking fine. The Hesperus and the digitalis, the foxgloves, and the primrose in the orchard, Vanessa's orchard here, just starting to come through, and hopefully in a couple of weeks' time this will just be absolutely covered. Oh, the camellia's in flower. So I moved this camellia in the autumn. Not really sure if it was going to take. We're still early days, but it's certainly flowering. And of course we're going to have a frost next week, so that's not going to do them too much good. In fact, I might cut a few stems just to bring inside before the frost. Well, I'm pleased to report that the tulips are looking absolutely fine. So I was slightly concerned last month, worried about if they had got themselves a bit drowned, but we are fine. Another thing I've been doing this week is moving my snowdrops around. So now's the time to move them while they're in the green. So I just dug them up from one place and put them where I want them, so that hopefully they will bulk up. Okay, little tiny north-facing bed here. So it had some honesty in it last year, and I've got loads and loads and loads of honesty seedlings popping up. and the first of the narcissi are appearing. This is a nice mixed bed. I've got all sorts in here: foxglove, sweet William, clary, quite a few weeds, but the odd hellebore seedling popping up. So yeah, all sorts going on. Bumblebee enjoying some pollen, much needed. Having a lovely time on the hellebores. And lastly, I just thought I'd show you inside. This is my little germination setup. It's above my cooker hood. I've just checked them and there is nothing to report this morning. I check them usually twice a day, but once is sufficient. And then they get moved to the nursery unit. So once the seeds have germinated, I just pop them here for a day or so, usually waiting for kind of a couple more days just to make sure that any that are going to come up do come up. So I've got some Rudbeckia, actually this is parsley here, and then they'll go out to the greenhouse, so that I take down the bag first as soon as they come off the warm area, and then they get left here for 1-2 days. And the other thing are my dahlias. So these were a few of the tubers. I didn't dig up many tubers, but there's a few that I divided and potted up after, well, about a month ago. And yeah, I've got Diva sprouting, and Honker and Downham Royal, I think, were the first ones. So that one, we're ready to take cuttings from that one, but I'd rather have more of them ready before I have a go at all of them. These ones are yet to sprout, if they do at all. It just depends if they had eyes on their tubers. I'm not very good at spotting the eyes, so I just have to take a guess. They are generally different ones to the other ones that have sprouted, so it might be that they're just slower, or it might be that they're not going to at all. So that's the March garden tour done and dusted. Quite a lot changing. Let's see how those seedlings do over the next few weeks. It's gone cold again, so they're not really wanting to do that much. It's still plenty early enough for most people to be seed sowing. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you next month.